This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Joe Longo.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast Live. Are you in need of maybe having your Harley serviced, or maybe you're interested in having a custom motorcycle built for you? Today, you're in the right place, my friends, because we are about to introduce you to our good neighbor guest, Frank Stancato, who is the owner of Death Row Motorcycles. Frank, thank you so much for being here with me today. How you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing really good. I'm excited to talk and learn more and share about your business. If you can, tell everyone that's listening a little bit about Death Row Motorcycles.
Sure. We started about 23 and a half years ago. We are going strong. We started it based on custom builds. That's was our premise in the beginning days of it all. And then as I think the OCC chopper craze and all that stuff started going out in 2007, 2008, we acclimated to more of getting into the Harley sales and service. And we really dedicated ourselves in that arena. So now, I hate to say it, but 16, 17 years later, we really went full blast. So we're doing sales and service for all over the world, really custom builds that, went to UK, Russia, South Africa. We had a couple builds out there. So, I mean, we've really grown in the last couple of years, which is great. Pretty proud of what we've done. But like I said, just to get the word out there for the sales and service on the Harley side and metric side, even, we're there for the people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How did you come about this business of being, because really I look at it as a very creative business in the custom build. How did this all come to be?
Well, I mean, back in the day, I loved motorcycles my whole life, and I never really got into them. And my father was not a big motorcycle guy, and he didn't really want me on them, in the early days. But as it got later, I'm like, I really want to get into this. I got out of another business, so I'm like, I'm going to get into this thing. And on the creative side of it, it is on the custom build side, and even really on the parts and accessory side. When a person they come in and they really don't know what they want. If you could tailor it to what, get a little bit of info, tailor it to their likes, their needs, what they're looking for. That's the whole creative side that I feel that, we've entertained, through the last 20 some years. And we could get that person in a place where, they love their bike even more than when they bought it.
Right. It's so interesting that you said your dad maybe wasn't a fan of the
motorcycle. Not a big fan.
My dad loved the motorcycle, and he actually met my mom
on
the motorcycle. He went to Pine Street Playground in Hazleton to take someone for a ride, and they weren't there. And my mom happened to be there, and he was like, "Hey, you want to go for a ride?" and they rode off into the sunset. And growing up, right, he was like, you should get one of those instead. And never, ever. I'm like, I'm going to fall down.
Yeah.
So complete opposite. He was the pusher. And I'm like, I'm going to stick with four wheels and stay over here where I'm comfortable. So very interesting, dynamic there.
Yeah. Very interesting.
So in this, right, in the motorcycle world that you're in, what are some of the misconceptions about your industry?
So, I think obviously they're dangerous. It is what it is. I mean, you get in an accident on four wheels, you have a way better chance. And for the most part, I got to tell you, like, it's not as dangerous as people think. Like, if you got to pay attention. Now, the world of the iPhone, the world of the phones didn't make it any easier on anybody. So one of the, I always hear it all the time, I'm scared, I'm this and that, but you shouldn't be on if you're scared, to be honest with you. It is one of those things. But the myths, that's kind of a tough question, because there are so many.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like I said, that's one of the biggest for me. I think just when people are riding, you just got to pay attention. You got to be on it. And I'll tell you, for the people out there, you might think you really know how to ride, but there's good classes out there. and they actually excel you to the next level rider. I took one a couple of years ago, and it was an expert course, because I've been riding for a long time now. But you just don't realize in the rain, what do you do? Like if you start sliding, what do you do? Like there's just certain tricks to the trade, like any other business, and it could get you out of trouble.
Yeah, yeah, and you really brought up a good point that if you're scared, then maybe it's not the best vehicle for
Right.
you.
Yeah.
But again, it's like I look at my family. My one brother was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it." Me and my other brother were like, "No, thank you."
Yep.
And it was just there. So in this space of your business and being in business so long, how are you targeting your customers? How are you attracting them? How are you connecting with them?
So over the years, I did a lot of TV, back in the day, radio, TV. It worked and didn't work. I really believe it takes a while to win the customer's confidence. So a
Mhm.
lot of it for us is word of mouth. Now, once you kind of get over that hill of yeah, these guys know what they're doing. They're there 25 years. I mean, they're there a quarter of a century. I think they have a clue. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot, like I said, is word of mouth. We use a good social media platform. We're on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook,
Mhm.
and we try to use all of them. And then like I said, word of mouth's probably our biggest. You have one good customer, and he tells four people, they tell four people. It just grows your business tremendously. And
Mhm.
obviously a web. We have our website,
Sure.
e-commerce, the whole nine yards. But I think that's the word of mouth and just treating people right and getting it out there. If something does happen, you own up to it and you get it right for the customer. I just think it's a big part of today's business, and in any business, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Have you ever toyed around with this version of putting yourself out there in the podcast world?
No, not really. But one of my buddies just started doing it down in Philadelphia, and he's loving it. It's a lot of work. He told me it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't have that much time, but I am starting to look at it. I really am, because
Mhm.
it does get you out there. I think people appreciate knowing what should be done to their bikes, on what intervals, what services, when should you do them, when
Mhm.
should you do a brake flush, because I get the questions all the time, and people are like, I hate to ask you this, but like, I just changed my oil last year. But if the bike's sitting for a year and a half, you should probably, oil breaks down also. So you,
Mhm.
you should probably do it again. You don't want to go 10,000 miles or let the bike sit for 3 years and not change the oil. So really, no, these, like, going back to the old school thing, there's no really dumb questions. Well,
Mhm.
it's just out there. It's just education.
Right, right. And I mean, I obviously love this platform and a way of putting it, getting content out there into the world because it really has this magic of, sure, we're here talking right now, but
Right.
post interview, we've got clips and different pieces of the show to send out. So I like thinking like strategically planned is a great way to get businesses out into the world.
Correct.
Um, so outside of work and riding your motorcycle, what are you doing for fun?
So I'm trying, believe it or not, I'm trying to get back into golf. My
Mhm,
one son's playing a lot, so I was pretty good back in my day, and I'm trying to get back into it. And it's not an easy game to get back into. Uh,
mhm,
and then just doing stuff around the house, just, we're, usually after a full week here, we're spent, you know what I mean? So I either want to go for my rides with some of my friends and go out there and ride the bike, and if I'm really not doing that, like I said, I'm either gonna be doing something around the house, or golfing or something like that, just to bite up the time a little bit.
mhm, mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
we got to get out there and decompress
Yeah,
a
no,
little
without a
bit.
doubt.
And
Without a
even
doubt.
if we're not good golfers, we at least get to be outside.
Well, I'll
Um,
tell you, family time. Well, not only but family time, just having that good time, regardless of what you do, how you shoot, where you are, even if it's hiking, that's
mhm,
always a good outlet for things. Sweat a little bit, get out in the nature, and that I have to do more. I wish I had the time to do that a little bit more.
mhm.
Um, so I might make a conservative effort this year to try to get out there a little bit more with the wife, but we'll see how that goes.
Awesome. So if you can tell our listeners one thing that they should remember about death row motorcycles.
Um, the one thing is we give it our all. The
Mhm,
quality of our service, I really feel, is a 9 out of 10. I'll never say 10 out of 10, but I mean, we really go over the bikes. We make sure we know you're on two wheels. You know, when there's one thing back in the day, like, you know, you're trying, as time goes on and you start making a little bit money and you get a little bit more comfortable, you know, you could tell people what they need, what they don't need, but you don't have to rush the bikes out. You know, it's not one of those deals with us anymore. I take an extra couple minutes to make sure the bike's right, make sure it's what they wanted, you know, make sure tire pressures are good when they leave, you know, just make that extra effort. So, you know, like I said, you're on two wheels, it's not four wheels. So if you have a, you know, you have a blowout, you only got two wheels. So we really go above and beyond, you know, what I feel we did, you know, way back, you know, but that's I think that's the one for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. And really it goes to show being in business for as long as you have been, showing up for the customer really is key.
Yeah.
And how can all of our listeners find out more about Death Row Motorcycles?
So, I mean, we're all over Instagram, Facebook, like I said, TikTok, drmshop.com. We have our website, which is drmshop, www.drmshop.com. And, you know, we're out there. I'm posting as much as I could possibly post, you know, what we do. We got into stereos big time in the last 3 or 4 years for touring bikes that, you know, people are going 89 miles an hour and they want to hear their music. People love their music. So, and I'm one of them. So I, you know, we got into that big time, and we're you know, we're trying to get as you know, the best we can with knowing as much as we can about that. But on that side of it, yeah, social media, our website, and we're down here on 309 in Drums. So you could come down and visit us anytime. We give tours of the shop. You know, show what you know, what we could do, the fabrication we do, just the you know, the sales and the service.
That's awesome. Well, Frank, I really appreciate you being on the show. And from myself and everybody at the Good Neighbor podcast, we wish you the best moving forward, my friend.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate the time.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpnepa.com. That's gnpnepa.com. Or call 570-908-4334.